The bright lights of the conference room shone on the faces of Earth's most important leaders. They sat in a half-circle, watching the large screen on the wall. After years of sending signals into space, humanity had finally received an answer. The image on the screen showed a tall, thin creature with pale blue skin. Its 4 eyes blinked at different times, and its mouth was a small line that barely moved when it spoke. "We are the Vex," the alien said in a voice that sounded like metal scraping against metal. "We wish to meet your kind." 3 months later, Tom Miller stood at the window of the spaceship Horizon, watching as they approached the Vex homeworld. As Earth's top diplomat, he had been chosen to lead this historic mission. He was a simple man with a calm voice and steady hands, perfect for making first contact with an alien race. "It's beautiful," said Jack, the ship's pilot, as he joined Tom at the window. The Vex planet was covered in shades of purple and blue, with massive cities that glowed even from space. Giant rings circled the planet, filled with thousands of spaceships. "Remember what they told us," Tom said. "The Vex have conquered 23 planets. They're not just advanced, they're dangerous." "But they invited us here," Jack replied. "That must mean something." Tom nodded but felt uneasy. The reports about the Vex were troubling. Every species that met them either became their allies or disappeared. Their weapons were not just guns and bombs, but invisible things, diseases and poisons that could kill entire planets. As their ship landed at the main spaceport, Tom straightened his simple blue uniform. The door opened with a hiss, and he stepped out onto alien soil. A group of 7 Vex waited for them. They wore flowing robes covered in strange symbols. The tallest one stepped forward. "I am Saul, Chief Ambassador of the Vex Collective," it said. "Your journey across the stars is impressive for such a young species." Tom bowed slightly. "Thank you for your invitation. We hope this meeting will begin a long friendship between our worlds." Zell's 4 eyes blinked in an odd pattern. "Yes, friendship. Come, we have prepared a welcome ceremony." The humans followed the Vex through massive hallways made of a strange metal that seemed to change color as they walked. Other alien species moved around them. Some looked almost like humans, while others were completely different, with tentacles or wings or shells. "These are representatives from our allied worlds," Zal explained. "They are eager to meet humans for the first time." Tom noticed that these aliens kept their distance from the humans, watching them with what looked like fear or concern. At the Grand Hall, a huge feast was laid out. Foods of all colors and shapes filled long tables. The Vex took their places at the head table and invited Tom and his team to join them. "Before we eat," Zal announced, "we must toast to new beginnings." Servants brought out glasses filled with a glowing purple liquid. Tom noticed the other alien representatives didn't receive this drink. "This is our most sacred beverage," Kel said, "only shared with potential allies of great importance." As Tom accepted his glass, he caught several Vex exchanging quick glances. Their mouths curved slightly upward in what might have been smiles. "To the future of our species," Zal said, raising the glass. Tom smiled and raised his glass in return, not knowing that this simple diplomatic gesture would soon change the course of galactic history. Tom woke up early the next morning. His dreams had been strange, filled with glowing purple liquid and whispering voices. He shook his head to clear it and looked out the window of his guest quarters. The 3 suns of the Vex world were rising, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink. A soft chime sounded at his door. When he opened it, a small Vex stood there, its blue skin almost white compared to the others he had met. "Ambassador Miller, I am Kel, your guide," it said. "Chief Ambassador Saul requests your presence for a special ceremony today." As they walked through the city, Tom saw more aliens from different planets. They moved aside when Vex officials passed by, lowering their eyes or bowing slightly. It was clear who held the power here. "Your world has many allies," Tom said to Kel. The small Vex made a sound like quiet laughter. "Not allies, Ambassador. Subjects. The Vex protect them, and in return, they serve. Tom frowned but said nothing. This wasn't what the Vex had told Earth during their first communications. The ceremony hall was massive, with high ceilings that seemed to disappear into darkness above. Representatives from at least 20 different alien species sat in rows facing a raised platform. Stahl stood there, wearing a robe of deep purple that matched the color of last night's drink. "Welcome, humans," Hexel said as Tom and his team took their seats in the front row. "Today is a special day. Today, we officially welcome you to the galactic community." The crowd made various sounds. Some clapped, others clicked or hummed. But Tom noticed none of them seemed truly happy. "Before we begin formal relations, we must perform the ceremony of truth," Zal continued. "It is our oldest tradition." 2 Vex servants entered, carrying a clear container between them. Inside was the same purple liquid from the previous night. It glowed even brighter in the dim light of the hall. "This is Nightfall," Zal announced, "the most precious substance in our empire. It is created from rare flowers that grow only in the deepest caves of our world, touched by neither sunlight nor rain." Zal's 4 eyes focused on Tom. "Throughout history, we have offered Nightfall to new species we encounter. It is a test of sorts." "What kind of test?" Tom asked, feeling uncomfortable under the gaze of so many aliens. "Nightfall contains compounds that are toxic to every known species except the Vex," Zal said proudly. "Over thousands of years, only our biology has evolved to process it safely. All others must show respect by acknowledging our superiority in this matter." Tom noticed the other alien representatives shifting nervously in their seats. "This drink has become the symbol of our position in the galaxy," Zal continued. "Those who cannot drink it must accept our protection and guidance. It is the natural order." Jack, who sat next to Tom, whispered, "This sounds more like a show of power than a ceremony." Tom nodded slightly. The Vex weren't looking for allies. They were looking for new subjects. Zal raised a crystal cup filled with the glowing liquid. "We do not expect you to drink, of course. Merely to acknowledge that humans, like all others, have physical limitations compared to the Vex." The room fell silent. Tom could feel every eye on him. This wasn't just a ceremony. It was a challenge. The Vex wanted humans to admit weakness from the start. "And if we refuse this acknowledgement?" Tom asked carefully. Zal's mouth curved into that strange, almost smile. "Then we would question whether humans truly understand their place in the universe. For your safety, of course." Tom looked at the purple liquid glowing in Zal's cup. He knew his next words would determine humanity's future among the stars. Tom stood facing Zal, feeling the weight of Earth's future on his shoulders. The purple liquid glowed in Zal's cup, looking both beautiful and dangerous. "We understand the importance of your traditions," Tom said carefully. "But humans also have traditions. We believe in meeting as equals." A murmur went through the crowd. Several alien representatives looked at each other with surprise. No one had challenged the Vex ceremony before. Zal's 4 eyes narrowed slightly. "Perhaps you misunderstand, Ambassador Miller. This is not a negotiation. This is simply how things are done." Tom noticed other Vex officials moving closer. The atmosphere in the room had changed from ceremonial to tense. "Let me show you," Zal said, raising the cup higher. "This is Nightfall. It flows through Vex veins. It gives us strength no other species possesses." As Zal moved forward, one of the Vex assistants bumped against him. The cup tilted. Purple liquid spilled through the air, droplets falling toward the floor in slow motion. Without thinking, Tom grabbed an empty glass from a nearby table and caught some of the falling liquid. The room went completely silent. Even the air seemed to stop moving. "Be careful," Tom said, holding the half-filled glass. "You don't want to waste your precious drink." Zal stared at him, all 4 eyes wide open. "Put that down immediately. It will kill you instantly." Tom looked at the glass in his hand. The purple liquid swirled and glowed, almost like it was alive. He thought about Earth, about how this moment would define humanity's place among the stars. "You know," Tom said, "where I come from, it's considered rude to refuse a drink offered by your host." Before anyone could stop him, Tom lifted the glass to his lips and took a small sip. The taste hit him immediately, bitter and sweet at the same time, with a strong burning sensation that spread from his mouth to his throat. It reminded him of strong whiskey mixed with spices. The entire hall erupted in chaos. Alien representatives jumped from their seats, some running for the exits. The Vex officials froze in place, all staring at Tom with their 4 eyes wide open. Tom felt the burn move down to his stomach. It wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't unbearable either. He waited for pain, for collapse, for death. But nothing happened except the warm feeling spreading through his body. "Is it supposed to taste like cinnamon?" he asked, looking at the shocked face of Cal. Jack rushed to Tom's side. "Are you insane? That could have killed you." "Maybe," Tom said quietly, "but I had a feeling it wouldn't." One of the Vex scientists rushed forward with a strange device. He held it near Tom, and it made a series of beeping sounds. "Impossible," the scientist whispered. "He's processing the toxins. His body is neutralizing them." Zal's face had changed color, turning from blue to almost white. "This cannot be. Every species we have encountered in 10,000 years has fallen to nightfall. It is our ultimate defense, our proof of superiority." Tom set the glass down carefully. "It seems humans are a bit different." The news spread through the room like wildfire. Tom could hear the alien representatives talking excitedly. Some looked at the humans with new interest, others with fear. "What happens now?" Tom asked Uxal. But the Vex ambassador seemed unable to speak. Another Vex official stepped forward, this one wearing a red robe. "This changes everything," the official said. "The High Council must be informed immediately." As the Vex officials hurried out, Tom caught the eye of a small green alien in the corner of the room. Unlike the others, this alien was smiling. It gave Tom a slight nod, almost like a thank you. For the first time since arriving, Tom smiled too. The balance of power had just shifted, and everyone in the room knew it. News traveled faster than light across the galaxy. Within hours, every planet connected to the Vex network had heard the story. A human had drunk nightfall and lived. The impossible had happened. Tom sat in the medical wing of the human quarters, surrounded by his team. Doctors ran tests on him while Jack paced back and forth across the room. "Your heart rate is normal. Blood pressure normal. Somehow, your body processed the toxins like they were nothing more than sugar," said Dr. Wilson, the expedition's medical officer. "It's remarkable. How did you know you wouldn't die?" Jack asked, stopping his pacing to look directly at Tom. Tom shrugged. "I didn't, but I noticed something last night at dinner. The drink they gave us wasn't the same as what they drank. It looked similar, but the color was slightly off. I think they were testing us even then." The door slid open, and a human woman in a lab coat entered. She had been working with the Vex scientists since they arrived. "Ambassador Miller, I'm Dr. Lisa Reed," she said. "The Vex just shared their analysis with me. Your digestive system has enzymes they've never seen before. Your liver processed the toxin and turned it into something harmless." "Is this true for all humans?" Jack asked. Dr. Reed nodded. "Based on their tests, yes. It seems to be a quirk of human evolution. Our ancestors ate all sorts of plants and animals that other species consider poisonous." Tom smiled. So thousands of years of humans eating strange things finally paid off. Their conversation was interrupted by a message on the main screen. It was a news broadcast from Earth. Tom's face filled the screen with the headline, "Human dactyl omate survives alien poison." "You're famous," Jack said. "Look at the view count, over 10 billion. The broadcast showed celebrations breaking out on Earth. People in every country were cheering the news. Humanity had just proven itself on the galactic stage. "The Vex won't like this," Tom said quietly. "Their whole society is built on being superior." As if on cue, the door opened again. This time, it was a group of Vex wearing dark green uniforms, different from the diplomatic robes they had seen before. "I am Commander Rix of the Vex Defense Force," the lead Vex announced. "Ambassador Miller must come with us for further examination." Jack stepped between Tom and the Vex. "He's already been examined by your scientists." "This is not a request," Commander Rix said. "The High Council has ordered a full biological study." "You mean you want to experiment on me?" Tom said, standing up. "That wasn't part of our agreement." Commander Rix's four eyes blinked in sequence. Agreements change when circumstances change. The human ability to neutralize nightfall must be understood. Dr. Reed crossed her arms. "And if we refuse?" "Then the Defense Force will ensure compliance," Rix said, "for the security of the Vex Collective." Tom's communication device beeped. It was a message from Earth. "Do not COMPLI. Return home immediately. Earth forces on STA and DBY." "I think we're done here," Tom said. "Our ship leaves in 1 hour. We'll continue discussions from Earth." Commander Rix stepped forward, towering over Tom. "You misunderstand. No one leaves until we have answers." Outside the window, Tom could see Vex military ships moving into position around the human vessel. They were being blockaded. "This is how the Vex treat those who surprise them?" Tom asked. "With threats and imprisonment. This is how we protect our position in the galaxy," Rix replied. "For 10,000 years, the Vex have been supreme. One human with unusual biology will not change that." As armed Vex soldiers entered the room, Tom exchanged looks with Jack and Dr. Reed. They had come seeking friendship but found themselves in the middle of a galactic power struggle instead. What had started as a diplomatic mission was quickly becoming something much more dangerous, and humanity's future hung in the balance. Dr. Lisa Reed couldn't sleep. It had been 3 days since the humans were confined to their quarters. Vex guards stood outside their doors day and night. The ship was still blocked from leaving, and communications with Earth were limited to short, monitored messages. While Tom and the others tried to negotiate with the Vex officials, Lisa focused on the science. Something about the Nightfall incident bothered her. She reviewed the video of the ceremony again and again on her tablet. "Wait," she whispered to herself, stopping the video. She zoomed in on the moment when Saul spilled the drink. The movement of the assistant who bumped into him didn't look natural. It looked planned. A soft knock on her door startled her. It was the middle of the night cycle. She opened it cautiously to find a small Vex standing there. It was Kel, Tom's guide from before. "Dr. Reed, you must come with me," Kel whispered, quickly and quietly. "Why should I trust you?" she asked. "Because I am risking my life to be here," Kel replied. "And because you have already figured out part of the truth." Lisa hesitated, then nodded. She followed Kel through hidden passages in the walls of the building. They moved silently, avoiding the guards. Finally, they arrived at a small room deep within the structure. Inside, 3 other Vex waited. They looked different from the others Lisa had seen. Their skin was a darker shade of blue, and they wore simple clothing with no markings. "I am Vel," said one of them, stepping forward. "Leader of the Reform Movement. We have been watching you, Dr. Reed." "What is this about?" Lisa asked. "The spill was not an accident," Vel said. "Your Ambassador Miller was meant to catch the Nightfall. He was meant to see it up close. It was a setup." Lisa asked, though she had already suspected this. Vel nodded. "The military faction planned it. They expected the human to show fear, to bow to our superiority like all others before. They did not expect him to drink it. They certainly did not expect him to survive." "Why tell me this?" Lisa asked. "Because our society is at a breaking point," Vel explained. "For too long, the military has ruled through fear, using Nightfall as proof of our right to control others. Your ambassador's survival threatens everything they believe." Kel moved forward. "Not all Vex want to rule through fear. Many of us seek true cooperation with other species, but we have been silenced for generations." "Show her," Vel said to one of the others. The Vex activated a screen on the wall. It showed laboratories deep underground. In these labs, Lisa could see aliens from different species being tested with various substances. Many lay dead or dying. "This is how the military maintains control," Vel said. "They test poisons on captured aliens, perfecting nightfall to ensure no one can resist it. But they failed with humans. Their intelligence about Earth was incomplete. And now they want to experiment on Tom to fix that mistake," Lisa said, understanding dawning. "Yes," Vel confirmed. "If they can modify nightfall to affect humans, their power remains unchallenged." "We need to warn my people," Lisa said urgently. "That is why we brought you here," Vel replied. "But there is more. In their panic about humans, the military has made a mistake." Vel handed Lisa a small data device. "This contains information about Vex biology, something they hide from all other species." Lisa examined the data, her eyes widening. "This shows a weakness in Vex immune systems, a specific compound that's harmful to you." "Yes, a compound common on Earth, in your foods," Vel said. "The military fears this knowledge above all else. It would destroy the myth of Vex superiority." "Why give this to me?" Lisa asked. "You're betraying your own kind." "We are saving our kind," Kel said firmly. "The path of domination leads to isolation. The humans' resistance to nightfall is a sign that the universe demands cooperation, not control." Lisa looked at the data again. It was the key to balancing power between humans and Vex. "Ambassador Miller must know about this," she said. "But how? We're all being watched." Vel smiled for the first time. "That is why we need your help, Dr. Reed. We have a plan." Tom stood at the window of their quarters, watching the Vex military ships surrounding the human vessel. More ships had arrived overnight. The blockade was growing stronger. A soft knock on the door broke his concentration. Jack opened it to find Dr. Reed standing there with a tray of food. "The Vex sent breakfast," she said loudly, for the benefit of the guards. Once inside with the door closed, she whispered, "Don't react. Keep talking normally." Tom nodded slightly, understanding that something important was happening. "How are the negotiations going?" Lisa asked in her regular voice, while sliding a small data device under Tom's plate. "Not well," Tom replied, casually picking up the device. "The Vex military insists I submit to their tests. Earth refuses to allow it." Jack turned on music to cover their conversation. Tom quickly read the data on the device, his eyes widening. "The spill was planned," he whispered. "And there's a Vex resistance movement." Lisa nodded. "They showed me proof. The military faction has been experimenting on other species for centuries, and they have a weakness. Certain compounds in Earth foods are toxic to them." "So that's why they're so afraid," Tom said. "Not just because I survived their poison, but because we might have poisons of our own." Their conversation was interrupted by a loud announcement. The main screen in their room activated automatically, showing Commander Rix standing before what looked like a war council. "People of Earth," Rix began, "your ambassador has violated sacred Vex traditions and stolen biological secrets. This cannot stand." The camera pulled back to show a massive fleet of Vex warships. "We have positioned our defense force around your solar system," Rix continued. "No ships will enter or leave Earth until our demands are met." Tom, Lisa, and Jack stared at the screen in horror. The Vex had blockaded not just their ship, but the entire Earth. "Our demands are simple," Rix said. "First, Ambassador Miller will surrender himself for biological study. Second, humans will share the genetic secrets that allow them to neutralize nightfall. Third, Earth will acknowledge Vex authority in this sector of space." "They're using this as an excuse to take over Earth," Jack whispered. You have 48 Earth hours to comply. Rix finished. Or we will demonstrate our power in ways you cannot imagine. The screen went dark. Moments later, Tom's communication device beeped with an urgent message from Earth's leaders. Blockade HFY Armed. Military on high alert. HFY onvx weaknesses. Tom looked at Lisa and Jack. We need to talk to the resistance. They're our only hope of resolving this without war. Lisa nodded. Kel said they would contact us tonight. They have a plan to get us out of here. We don't have much time, Tom said, looking at the data again. But I think I have an idea. Later that night, as promised, Kel appeared through a hidden panel in her quarters. This time, Vel was with him. The military has gone too far, Vel said without greeting. Many Vex oppose this blockade, but we dare not speak openly. We need to get to our ship, Tom said. Can you help us? Vel nodded. We can, but it is dangerous. What will you do if you escape? Tom shared his plan. He would return to Earth, not to prepare for war, but to create a peace offering, a gift that would change everything. Your military fears what they don't understand, Tom explained. They see our immunity to nightfall as a threat, but what if we showed them it could be a benefit? How? Vel asked. Dr. Reed discovered that the same enzymes that protect humans from nightfall could be used to strengthen Vex immune systems against their own weaknesses, Tom said. Instead of fighting over our differences, we could help each other. Vel's 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of surprise. You would share this knowledge freely, even after our threats. Yes, Tom said firmly, because that's the difference between your military and us. We don't need to dominate to cooperate. Vel was silent for a moment, then said, perhaps humans are even more different than we thought. Come, we must hurry. As they prepared to escape, Tom looked out at the stars one last time. The fate of 2 species now rested on their shoulders, and on whether understanding could triumph over fear. 1 week later, Tom Miller stood once again in the great hall of the Vex capital. This time, he wasn't a guest, but a volunteer who had returned despite the danger. Behind him stood Dr. Reed and Jack, along with a team of Earth's top scientists. The hall was packed with Vex from both the military and civilian factions. News of Tom's return had spread quickly throughout the planet. No one had expected a human to come back willingly after escaping. Commander Rix stood at the front, his 4 eyes narrowed with suspicion. Ambassador Miller, you returned despite our ultimatum. Why? Because ultimatums don't solve problems, Tom replied. His voice was calm but carried to every corner of the room. I come with an offer instead. Tom nodded to Dr. Reed, who stepped forward with a small case. Inside were containers of various Earth foods, apples, honey, yogurt, and bread. These are common foods from Earth, Tom explained. Dr. Reed has modified them slightly using the same enzymes that allow humans to process nightfall. These foods now contain compounds that can strengthen Vex immune systems against their natural weaknesses. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Many of the military Vex looked angry, but others seemed curious. So you admit you know our weaknesses, Rix said accusingly. Yes, Tom nodded, just as you know ours. The difference is how we use that knowledge. You wanted to experiment on me to perfect your poison. We want to help you overcome your vulnerabilities. Vel stepped forward from the crowd, no longer hiding his identity. The human speaks truth. I have seen their research. They offer health instead of harm. Traitor, Rix shouted. You have revealed our secrets to aliens. No, Vel replied firmly. I have opened a door to a better future, one where the Vex are strong through cooperation, not domination. An older Vex with deep blue skin rose from the seat of honor. It was the supreme leader, rarely seen in public. Is it true? The leader asked Tom. These foods would protect our people from the compounds that harm us. Yes, Tom said. And there's more. Our scientists believe that by combining our knowledge, we could create a new version of nightfall, one that harms neither human nor Vex, but stands as a symbol of our cooperation. The leader moved closer, examining the earth foods. "And what do you ask in return, human?" "Peace," Tom replied simply. "End the blockade of Earth. Acknowledge us as equals, not subjects. Together, we can be stronger than either of us could be alone." The leader was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he reached for one of the modified apples. Before anyone could stop him, he took a bite. The hall went completely silent. Everyone watched, waiting. The leader chewed slowly, then swallowed. "Sweet," he said. "Different from our food, but not unpleasant." He turned to Rix. "Commander, you said these humans were a threat. Yet they return to us with gifts, not weapons. They are trying to trick us." Rix protested. "This is a plot toe." "Enough," the leader cut him off. "I have seen reports of previous encounters with humans. Reports you kept hidden from the Council. This is not the first time our species have met, is it, Commander?" Rix's skin turned pale. The crowd began to whisper. "For too long, we have ruled through fear," the leader announced. "Today, we see another path." He turned back to Tom. "The blockade ends today. In its place, we will begin a new era of cooperation between Vex and humans." One by one, other Vex came forward to try the Earth foods. With each bite, the tension in the room eased. Later, in a private ceremony, Tom and the leader shared a new drink, a clear blue liquid that combined elements of both worlds. "To the future," the leader said, raising his glass. "To understanding," Tom replied, raising his own. As they drank together, Tom couldn't help but smile at how far they had come. What began with a poison challenge had ended with a toast to peace. Sometimes it took a small sip to make a big change.